This is
The Science Lens,
the Faculty of Science podcast at the University of Manitoba. Together, let's discover the unknown and invent the future. Hello, I'm your host, Kimia Shatkami, Digital Content and Communications Lead at the Faculty of Science and a proud alum with a master's in Computer Science. In each episode, we take a closer look at research, innovation, and student experience that is happening right here at the University of Manitoba and the people who are shaping the future of science. Now, in this episode, we are taking a look at a specific subset of a very large subject, AI. What we are going to talk about is its role in meaningful and effective teaching and learning experiences, especially in the context of a university. And we're also going to give you a sneak peek of some of the AI research projects that are happening right here at the University of Manitoba. However, we're not necessarily covering scientific aspects of AI today, and also some of the ethical and environmental concerns around it. For that, I would strongly recommend that you check out the latest episode of What's the Big Idea that is hosted by President Michael Benarosh and the head of computer science department, David Gerard, as a guest. And it also features excerpts from the Q&A section of the recent night lecture with Professor Jeffrey Hinton. Now, today I'm joined once again by our co-host, Michelle Pernell-Lemire, who is a research grant facilitator at the Faculty of Science and holds a PhD in medical microbiology and infectious disease. Michelle, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me and not kicking me out. So today we have Brenda M. Stoesz with us today, who is a research lead of science teaching and learning at the Center for Advancement of Teaching and Learning at UM. She heads up projects that help strengthen teaching at the university, digging into topics like academic integrity, VR-based training for soft skills, and how students feel about learning tech. Brenda and her team work closely with colleagues, departments, and faculties to support the Center for Teaching and Learning and program evaluations, offering advice and hands-on help. She's also part of the university committee, like Academic Integrity Advisory Committee and the UM Committee on Artificial Intelligence, and she co-edits the Canadian Perspectives on Academic Integrity. We also have Rafiat Bamimore Akodu, a master's student in computer science from the Human-Computer Interaction Lab under the supervision of Dr. Huda El-Mamouni. She holds a master's degree in collective intelligence from the School of Collective Intelligence, the University Mohammed VI Polytechnique in Morocco, as well as a Bachelor of Engineering in Agricultural and Bioresources Engineering. Her primary research interest is in human-computer interaction, where she focuses on designing intelligent, human-centered systems that enhance user experiences and contribute to sustainable solutions. Her current research tends to investigate how Manitoba farmers use AI, exploring questions of trust, decision-making, and what happens when AI recommendations conflict with a farmer's own expertise and lived experience. A distinctive thread of her work centers on Indigenous farmers, examining how traditional knowledge systems and cultural values are shaped by the introduction of AI in agricultural settings. Her work ultimately aims to inform the design of AI systems that are more trustworthy, inclusive, and meaningful for farming communities across Manitoba and beyond.
Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. That was great.
More than the one line I thought.
Actually, I'm going to start with the questions now. My first question is for you, Brenda. We know with the AI technologies, there has been a lot of changes in the teaching and learning. What are the most prominent observations you've had about AI technology's impact on teaching and learning?
I think right now, even though it's been around now for a few years, the polarization is still there. So we have a lot of people who are excited about AI and what it can do to enhance both the teaching preparation and also learning for students. But then there is the other side of things where people might be fearful and they're uncertain. They don't know quite how to ensure that students are able to get the skills that they need, especially in things like writing. But it's really important now that people start to think about their courses differently, and they are. So one of the big takeaways that I give out to people is the importance of making sure that we're clearly communicating what it is that we want students to do in our courses and why. And I think the why sometimes can be a little hard to find. And I think with time, we'll see more people changing their approaches to teaching, but students will also have to, adapt as well. And I think that should happen. That'll happen. We'll get through this uncertain time.
That's great insight. I agree. Things are changing, and I'm glad that instructors are already kind of considering that in their course design as well.
And making sure that the essential elements of the course is still conducted in a way that people come away with the education that instructors want and students need. Mm-hmm. All right. Rafiat, in your research, how has AI been affecting human-computer interaction, technologies, and tools?
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to start from what you've seen, like a background about me. I had a background in agricultural engineering, and this field sits at the intersection between technology and the natural world, which is agriculture. So that kind of shapes how I see AI personally. So going back to the questions of how it's shaping CATL. So in human-computer interaction, what we are fundamentally looking at is the relationship between people and technology. And having AI is not just about introducing new tools to us. It's kind of introduced a new relationship between people. So when you have this relationship, what happens? So what I've seen so far is trust. Do people trust it? Do I trust myself? So asking those two questions, you kind of have a tension that exists between both. So how do you navigate this tension is actually what I'm currently researching, but I'm just looking at it in the context of a farmer, which is a domain expert of having a decade, years of learning, years of experience. And when AI make recommendations for them, how do they take it? How do they trust it? What if this recommendation is kind of conflicting with their existing knowledge? So are they going to accept it? Are they going to challenge it? That is what I'm currently researching. And also, I look this beyond just what I'm saying. I think it's everyday thing within us as human. When we see how AI has been, rapidly improving, you kind of ask the question yourself that, am I going to trust this thing? Am I going to believe it? Or I just wouldn't use it. Yeah. So that's just it.
Those are really important questions to ask and important things to research as well.
Yeah.
I like how you framed it as a relationship as well, because it can evolve and change as different parameters or the way that it takes data and as it gets more information, it can then readjust recommendations and things as well, which will then affect trust. Yeah. So I think that's a really good insight as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Something I found really interesting in what you said is that, the agricultural industry has already this base knowledge.
Yeah.
And AI is coming into that, and they have a base of knowledge with which to think critically about what the AI is telling them.
Exactly.
New students may not have that knowledge base. And so then it's difficult to think critically about what AI is producing. So fundamentally, it's really important to have that base knowledge and skill set in order to be critical of what might be coming.
Yeah. So, yes, because if you look closely into agriculture, you would see that the adoption rate of AI is not as fast as the other fields. And when you try to study what exactly is happening, sometimes you see that it's conflicting with traditional knowledge, cultural knowledge of the farmers. Yeah. That's one of the things that they complain about. That, no, it's not just going to give me a recommendation I'm going to accept. If it tells me to give a pesticide at this rate, and I've been in this field for years, I know my soil knows me, and it's telling me to give this rate of pesticides, then it's a wrong thing. I can't take it. I can't accept it. So that's one of the things that has been slowing down the adoption rate, and they don't trust it. Yeah.
But is that a case then where more information and working in concert to increase that knowledge base so that there is that extra information, so then the AI can be more harmonized to benefit from, and then the farmers can then benefit from that knowledge, because this is also a nice way to aggregate all the different advice that people have. So then as much as people talk to one another, then they also have this central repository of advice that has been collected. So that's another benefit as well.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. I love where the conversation is going. So my background comes from computer science and doing research in a very mathematical aspect of AI and also algorithms. So I've seen the technical behind the scenes coding theories and all of that. And then I come into science communication and I see some of the products for generative AI that are being used, whether for image creation, writing. And I sometimes feel like when people talk about AI, they're not necessarily just talking about the tools, they're talking about technologies, or they're just talking about the tools and not the technology. It is getting a little, it sometimes does get a little confusing. But I've seen a myriad of tools. So I'm just wondering, both of you in your works, and maybe Brenda, you first, what kind of tools have you seen and what kind of tools have you worked with, and what areas have you yet not explored?
Well, there's so many different tools, as you just stated, but also specifically for preparing teaching materials. So there's AI that trains on, teaching, instruction, pedagogy, and you can use these tools to create course outlines, or at least the starting of them, lesson plans. So generating information that way to leap forward in planning and hopefully planning a better course or lesson plan. And students too using different tools to brainstorm. So not only text, but images, music, video, all of these things. And I can't say that there's, one or two tools. There's thousands and thousands of tools. There's also tools that say that they are AI and they're not the kind of AI that we might think, right? So they're not generating information in the same way. They're actually a different kind of technology. And I think there's a lot of confusion about that. We try to say, okay, take a look at the policies, make sure you're using something that won't harm students, is ethical. And if you can feel comfortable with that, you're abiding by all the regulations that you need to, or the guidelines, then experiment and see what works for you. So we are a research institution after all, and so experimentation should be okay, but it also depends on the context, right? So choose the tools that make sense for the context, but also choose not to use any tools for the context if it means that will be a better learning experience.
That's a really good approach.
Yeah.
What about you, Rafiat?
So basically, I'm still at the beginning of my research, but as a student and as a research-based student, we do hear a lot of writing, literature reviews. So one tool that I know of that I use every day is like the large language model, like the Cloudy, or like I don't really use ChatGPT. So like the Cloudy, I use them basically to just to refine my writings. And sometimes when you want to do all of this writing, you tend to go into like complex thinking. You want to see how the structure of your writing, how is it going to go? If someone is reading my paper, how are they going to feel? I just want the flow to go. And sometimes it's hard to think. So sometimes I use it for complex thinking. I just use them in breaking things down into things. So I think I enjoyed what Brenda said now, that it depends on the context.
Mm-hmm.
Then don't just use it. I think it depends on the context. So that's it. And also for presentations, now I use it to practice presentations. Yeah. So I use like I think I forgot the name. There is like an AI tool now where you could present and it's gonna give you like feedback for your presentation, or you need to talk this way, you need to speak this way. Yes. So that's what I do use it for basically. Then for literatures, I'm kind of very, very careful because AI hallucinates a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to give you like papers and that are not even existing.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful with that. I do my literature manually, then I have another AI tool that kind of help me read them. Maybe when I'm busy at home, it just kind of read papers to me. So I'm taking breakfast, it reads the paper. So I'm doing like multiple things at the same time. It reads the paper, I'm enjoying my breakfast, and yeah, so that's it.
Brenda, how do you see AI impacting teaching and learning in the next 5 years?
Well, I think it's more of what I've already been talking about. It's going to be, as we've already talked about, more relational, right? So we have to be able to communicate to students and students to educators, professors, any supervisors of what the expectations are and really understand why we're doing something. So, in a class where you're writing, writing is not going to go out the window, at least I hope not, because a lot of people enjoy writing.
Yeah.
But writing for people who don't enjoy it is also very beneficial because it helps you to think through things. You're drafting and redrafting, and it's an opportunity to think critically. So the why is going to be really important. And also for faculty to learn how to curate what they're teaching. So not everything is important when you're teaching a course. The information that we get all the time from research is, coming into the teaching materials as well. And we need to curate that better and not put as much on students and keep the most important things. And that way students can also feel less overwhelmed and be less likely to be tempted to use strategies that they're not supposed to, like AI. And as I was thinking about what makes a good teacher, sometimes it's not the fancy ways of teaching. It's simply knowing how to explain something well. And that is a really important skill that many need to develop over time. So you may not be good at it right away, and you need lots of practice. And in order to be valued, you need to be able to answer questions as well. An AI answer is not enough. And developing real expertise is a lot of work, and it can be really challenging, but it will be worth it in the end because you have a real solid grounding in what it is that you're going to do. So whether that's a practical field, whether that's something that is more academic and you're not going to see, the practical elements right away, it's really important to have the base. And from there, you can think critically, you can problem solve. I mean, there are times, I can't remember who said this, but you don't take mathematics in high school just to learn math. You're taking mathematics to learn different ways to solve problems, or you're taking all kinds of other courses to learn how to solve problems. So we need to fundamentally know what it is that we want to learn, and then use AI, choose AI for the things that maybe we've already learned and we don't have to use it. We don't have to use our own skills anymore. We can offload some of those things so that we can learn the next level of things. Mm-hmm. So I think communication, relationship building, and these are what many of the experts have already been saying about where we fit into AI and where AI fits into our lives. If you're in other fields, any humanities, any fields that require a lot of reading and writing, you can't learn that information and have a solid foundation if AI is doing the work for you, because then you're not learning. Then why pay the tuition, right? So, but that's a people decision. The people have to come together and talk to each other about expectations.
Yeah, fact recall is one thing, but I think what you said about a good teacher is someone who can explain something, because you can, one, recognize that you have lost people along your explanation, and then knowing what level to go back to and breaking down it so that it's not too broken down that people then lose interest again because it's you're over explaining, but explaining to the level that will then help them understand that concept. And that understanding that concept is more important than remembering a weird like trivia fact almost. So I think I definitely agree with you that being able to explain it and explain it well to someone who doesn't understand your field is the easiest way to figure out if you've gotten a topic.
Yes.
Rafiat, how do you think AI is going to impact your field in the next 5 years?
So in human computer interaction, so I still think back to trust, because we are dealing with human in our research. So I still think back to trust at someone that is actually looking at this thing like close hand. And we know that the way AI is improving, AI, the way we are using it these days, when we solely rely on it can, and it goes wrong, we could have like a very big consequences from that. So how trusted is how it's gonna be impacted in the next 5 years. So there is something that I strongly believe: when people challenge AI, when they don't trust it, when they push it back, to me personally, it's not like a failure. It's not like a resistance. It's intelligence, because it makes you sure of, I know what I'm doing myself as a person. I know what I'm studying. I know what you're giving me is wrong. It gives you it puts you in a position to trust your own knowledge as human. So and also in ATI presently, we really do not have like enough research or data that faces us, we are from Africa. Like, yeah, we don't really have like, it is not a field that has been looked towards. The current AI is not really for us if we look closely into it. So in the next 5 years, we young researchers, someone like Professor Uda, some other people, they are really coming up so that we are going to have a voice in this field. So yeah, trust, you have to trust it, you have to challenge it, you have to push it back if it is necessary. If it is not, then if you think you cannot use it, then that's for you personally as a person. Human is really important context in our own side of research.
I love how human being there present is the focus here. That's very important.
Yeah, because sorry.
No, absolutely.
I know generally in computer science we have like I feel like we should have like two types of researcher: those who build the system, and some of us that question who the system is built for. Which community is it built for? Which knowledge is it built for? So I think I fall in the category of the second person. I want to ask questions. Is this really good for human? Is it okay for us to use? Yeah. So I'm good with it.
And how can you make sure that it is good for all humans? Because there are, especially in human-computer interaction, so many gaps that researchers have already identified of how to make it more accessible and inclusive. And so that work is really important to make sure that your voice is included and is heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have my last question before we go into rapid fire.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Brenda first. What is one piece of advice you have for students to make sure their learning experience in the age of generative AI is still meaningful?
This won't be a very popular answer, but take advantage of the opportunities to learn. So it does mean work, but go to class, hear what is said, because you're going to miss something otherwise. I mean, there are times when you can't make every single class, but go. You've paid for it and you've wanted to come. So go and take advantage of all the opportunities that enrolling in a course gives you.
Thank you so much. I think that speaks to me directly as a student, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Even honestly, as a staff, that's a good advice to be like, be in every learning opportunity, take advantage of it. That's really important. Rafiat, if a student is interested in your field of research, what do you recommend they do? Where do you recommend they start?
I love that question because my background is a bit of coming from here, coming from there. I had my background in engineering. Then I had a master's in collective intelligence from Morocco, like the northern part of Africa. And so I bring like different knowledge from different continents together. So for human computer interaction, if you want to like go into it, I want what I'm going to tell students is you don't have to be a tech person. You don't have to be a core technical person to be in that field. Wherever field you're coming from, you should see it as a data which you can use yourself in that field, because all of this background I had, they are helping me now in my research on how I see things, on how I tend to write things better, how I tend to behave with human and everything. So yeah, and also one advice I'm gonna give a student is to read a lot. Read a lot. If you want to go into a particular field, you should read about that field, papers, journals. What are they doing in this field? What exactly is missing? How can I contribute to this field? You have to read. You have to read and read and read. So yeah, that's my advice. Read a lot about the field you're going into and be confident.
That's really good, honestly, because that's important, bringing in different perspectives
Yeah.
into the field, and also keep on reading. And I agree. I think also for any science student, I think creative reading and writing is something that we may just like lose sight of as we come into science. But I hope they keep doing that, because it's the reading fiction and then trying to write creatively that kind of like shapes some of the skills that you might not necessarily have the time to, or get the chance to, explore in your field. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I think too, having the different perspective, because you have such like an interesting background of agriculture, collective intelligence, and now you're in human computer interaction, and you're bringing in your agriculture expertise. But having those different perspectives is really helpful in science, because then you're bringing in that knowledge base that if you just had people who were like chemists and physicists, and they stayed in their same track, so they have really good knowledge base and understanding of their field. But then if you have an outside perspective of like, oh, if you consider this, and they might not have because they haven't been exposed to it, and it could be something that's very interesting to find a way to collaborate with that person and then explore a new area for both of you.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for exploring, oh, I find this interesting, oh, now this seems more interesting, and that's okay. And then it's also okay if you're just like, you know what, no, I really love this field, I want to explore all the different facets in that field, because there's still diversity within a field. But then you can combine that with someone who has like a different education, and then be able to find something cool together.
Yeah, I think that was what really happened to me. Having like a diverse field, I was having a bit of difficulty seeing what exactly I wanted to do. But then I saw human computer interaction. I was like, wow, I think this is for me. This is what I want to do. Like, and I just made that decision. I think like doing my first master's, I saw like human computer interaction. Then I started reading more about it. I said, oh, I can bring in my perspective from this field, my knowledge from this field. Yeah. So also it doesn't like, I'm not saying that you don't have to have like the technical knowledge, because it took me like a year to.
Yeah, definitely.
I was not a computer science student. I had to learn programming languages myself, like personal learning. I had to learn them for different programming languages. At least I have to have a bit of background architecture of whatever they are using in this field, and to be able to use it perfectly well. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. That was the last question. We're now going to go into rapid fire questions, and we will try to keep our answers to 1 to 2 words, but it's okay if you want to elaborate, but let's try our best. So Michelle, do you want to start with the first one? Oh, I'll start with the first one. Yeah, I'll start with the first one. You asked me to. Okay, the first one. So it has been said that the 3-star emoji, we're going to put it on the screen somewhere, is a sign of AI use. How often do you use emojis when you text an email? Do you think the 3-star emoji is a good one? If not, which one do you recommend? Michelle, do you want to go first?
I kind of use emojis. I rarely use that one. So I think I would be safe.
Okay. Rafiat, what about you?
Yeah, for formal communication like emails or something, I don't usually use emojis.
Fair.
But for
That's
informal
smart.
communications, WhatsApp or something, I use emojis a lot. And I also do not use like the 3 stars emojis. So I use like the danger one, the one that has like this danger face. That's more real than the 3-star emoji. Yeah. So I
Okay.
don't really. So I would be safe, just like.
It gets your point across
Yeah.
better.
What about you, Brenda?
I do use emojis because I have teenage and university student children. So I kind of have to. But I have not heard of the 3-star emoji for AI. But who talks about AI in their texts?
Oh, I think mostly if you're using AI to like write a caption for a post on social media, it like throws in the 3-star emoji.
Okay, well, I have stopped using social media because it takes up too much time. And I have
already
better
waste enough
things.
time.
Yes. So I don't doom scroll anymore. So that's probably why I haven't seen it.
I don't know what would be. Maybe the question mark, just because I want to question it. It would be a good.
But it's
good
only
emoji.
2 letters.
Yeah.
So
that
just
also.
use the abbreviation.
Yeah. Also, just use AI. Okay. Second question. Go ahead, Michelle.
How often do you use M dashes in your writing or the Oxford comma?
Well, I used to use the M dash at least twice in a paper, and now I try to avoid it because of that. And the Oxford comma, I mean, if you don't use the Oxford comma, it could result in death, right?
Oh my God.
So, but the University of Manitoba Communications doesn't like the Oxford comma.
I know.
So, I guess there are some people being eaten. There's those phrases, if you leave the Oxford comma out, then it's a dangerous thing. So yes,
Yeah.
I like the Oxford comma. It communicates a very specific list.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just like Brenda. I use the Oxford comma a lot too,
Mm-hmm.
but the M dash, I don't really use them. Like I have not been using it while I was learning how to write back home. We don't really use the M dash
Mhm.
everything. So now that it's now showing that it's AI, I was like, cool. Even if I see it somewhere, I'm just gonna remove it. Like I don't like it. But the Oxford commas, I use that a lot.
Got
A
it.
lot.
I was
How about you?
never an M dash user. I really love brackets, and then you just have to be reasonable so that you're not remembering to close that third bracket. But brackets are what I tend to lean towards. And I do like the Oxford comma because I think, especially as like a scientist, like clarity is the most important thing. And it makes sure that it's very clear because there's so many cases where something is like this and this. If you don't have the comma in there, it's different.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's also my dilemma. I'm not an M dash person either, but then Oxford comma was something that was just ingrained in my brain. So
It's technically correct.
yeah, but then I started my role here at the university, and then I learned that we follow like Canadian journalism, basically, it's Canadian press, and so no use of Oxford comma. However, if it does get confusing. You're good to use it, and that has like put me in a interesting spot where if I'm not writing for university and I'm writing for myself, I'm like, do I use the Oxford comma? Do I not? So yeah, it's always a question for me now. Okay, next question: should you let AI write your resume?
No.
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 And no, I think that was a very easy one to go through.
We're back on the one word train.
That was a good one word rapid fire question. Michelle, would you like to ask the next?
Would you ever trust a robot to make your coffee or tea? Rafiat?
If it is trained on the way I like my tea, then why not?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not, I'm definitely not not trust it. But if it is trained like the way, I like my tea to have like more milk or to be creamy, to have sugar, okay, yeah, I can use it. But if it's not, then no.
Brenda?
I don't think so, because coffee making can be like, it's part of your routine. So, and sometimes you want it just a little different, and humans can make it a little different. Although we have lots of coffee machines, why do we need another machine to get the coffee from another machine to bring it to us?
You never know. No, because I'm Persian. I have my tea a very specific way, and it just changes on the day. I might want to add saffron or cardamom or something else. Yeah, I never know. So, not for me.
I would just want it to, can I program something so it grinds my coffee while I'm taking my dog for a walk so she doesn't yell at me while it's grinding? That's what I need.
That's, context.
That would improve my life.
They make machines for that already, so you're in luck.
Yeah. So seems reasonable.
Okay. Last rapid fire question. From the following tasks, which one do you wish AI could do for you? Fold your laundry, unload the dishwasher, meal prep, taking out the trash.
Meal prep.
Gotcha.
Fold the laundry.
Take out the dishes.
Okay, unload in dishwasher. Meal prep. They're with you. I like other chores. They're just, I put on music or a podcast and it's nice. But meal prep, I had just too much brain power needed from me after a long day of work. Well, those are all of our questions.
I think we had a great conversation today and a lot of really great points were made. And so I'm just going to end with that there's both benefits and drawbacks to incorporating AI into your work or your education. But everyone should ensure that they aren't removing themselves from an essential part of this process that needs human oversight and critical thinking, because I think critical thinking is the most important component of AI that you need to be aware of, why you're using it, how it's working, and about the output. That's really key in Rafiat's research is, do you trust it?
Do you trust it? Yeah.
And how much do you trust it? So that would be my wisdom.
That is very much appreciated. Thank you. Well, thank you both for being here today. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is my first podcast and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's a win for us. Thank you. Well, that's a wrap on episode 5. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thanks to Camille Pakamalan behind the camera. Thanks to Misha Perner-Lemire for hosting with me today. And thanks to our guests, Rafiat and Brenda, for being here with us. That was a very important and critical conversation. We have one more episode left in this season that we cannot wait to share with you. Thank you again for listening. Until the next one, remember to invent the future and discover the unknown. I think I said it, invent the future and discover the unknown, whether it's just supposed to be discover the unknown and invent the future. We can keep that.
The baby kicked in approval.